y'all? So you're back here with an episode of Indigo Podcast, and today I'm gonna give y'all 5 lessons I've learned from cross country because it's been about, I'd say, like 2 to 3 weeks since I've cross country season has ended. Training is slowly ramping up, but just after letting the dust settle a little bit, I've kind of went over some things in my mind that I've learned, and that I've learned, I would say, a lot of things with cross country, just experiencing it, but I've dialed it down to 5 things I've learned. So that's why I'm here today. We're going to go over the 5 things. So the first thing, and if you know me as a person, this shouldn't be a surprise. It just reinforced it doing cross country. Consistency reveals all. And I feel like throughout this whole cross country season, I was just very aware and reminded that literally if you show up every day and you're intentional and you're deliberate about your approach, and you're just consistently good instead of being occasionally great and just trying to be the fastest and beat people and just be the I guess the hero in workouts and stuff, you really realize that stuff compounds. And when it compounds over time, you'll see the fruits of your labor, and you'll really see all the work and all the dedication, whatever the buzzwords are, you know what I mean, all the time you've put and all the energy you've put into something. In this case, it's running. So it just shows that when you're consistently good instead of being occasionally great, and you trust yourself and you trust the process, things should play out the way that you want them to. I say should because sometimes life has a different plan for you and things don't go the way that you want them to go. But obviously not every run and workout will go to plan, like I just mentioned, based on a multitude of factors and missteps along the way you might make. Because obviously, if taking into consideration, this is my first actual cross country season. I have been doing track all my high school years, but either way, you're still, that consistency compounds regardless. If you just take the time to show up, even when your legs might be tired, even when you might be tired physically or mentally or whatever, obviously if you're throwing up and barreling on the ground, I don't know if you should run. I mean, that depends on the person. But anyway, the point is consistency compounds, just showing up day in and day out, and being consistent will never not be the answer, no matter what you're doing. Because I've literally seen it in school. I've transferred that same mindset and same approach to school and whatever else I do. It literally never fails. Because the thing is about consistency, I've said time and time again, it's boring to the average person. Doing the same thing, eating very similar meals, doing the same workouts, wearing the same shoes. It's pretty I don't really know. It's really I was gonna say minimalistic, but I don't think that's. I mean, it kind of is. It's not that much flash to it, I guess. So I guess that is a good word. Hold on, that might be a good word. But anyway, it's just not as shiny object syndrome in comparison to I need the best shoes, I need the best watch, I need to switch things up. In reality, you just need to keep it simple and trust the process, because all that other stuff people be doing, throwing medicine balls or running on your tippy toes, that stuff doesn't work. The hard truth is you need to be consistent, and you need to wait, you need to be patient. And just doing that in this season, and I'm going to carry that over to track season, it just proved that consistency always prevails and it always reveals all. So that's the first thing I learned. It's not a surprise, to be honest. Consistency reveals all, and I'm glad that this cross country season I got reminded of that, and I got to dive deeper into that. But the second thing I want to go over, I think this is really important. The mind is powerful only if you allow it to be. And I want to state only if you allow it to be, because a lot of people limit themselves and set bounds of what they can do and say, I could never do that. You run cross country, I could never run a 5K. I mean, if you think like that, you probably never will. I mean, even though you can, it's just you'll never have the bandwidth to do it. So I mentioned this before, just to give you some context if you don't know. I mean, I started my freshman year because my dad used to run the 400. Okay, I'm going to give a little bit of context how I even got into track, because this will segue into the cross country season. So just to keep it brief, pretty much I used to be a big hooper, a big basketball. I still hoop every now and then. I can dribble and shoot a little bit. I'm a little bit cold. So if you want to hoop against me, I'll give you a bucket a little bit. But anyway, not the point. So I was trying out for basketball and I got sick. It was a little sick. I could have, to be honest, if it was me now, I would have tried out anyway. But me back then, I didn't try out. So I didn't try out anyway. I recovered a little bit, and then I came back and I tried out, and they didn't really like what I was offering. So I was in the coach's room. They're like, hey, is there any other sports you want to do? We can get you into it. I'm like, all right, cool. And the only one I knew of was track because my dad did it. So I'm like, I know he did hurdles in the 400. And the 400, I'm like, that's one lap. It's not that hard. Little did I know. So anyway, I tried out. I got in, met Coach Beard and all of them. They're really cool. That's the thing I liked about track too. This is a little segue, but the thing with track, bro, like in comparison to football and basketball for me, it just seems I can't speak for high school because I didn't get deep into the basketball scene or football at all, so I can't speak for this. But in terms of middle school, it's way more welcoming and like way more like kind of what you want to do, and it's kind of more subjective based on you as a person. Anyway, so I got in track. I ran the 400. First 400 I ever ran was interesting. It was very cold. I felt like a freezer hit my chest. But anyway, that's not the point. It's a whole nother podcast. Anyway, so obviously I started at a 400. That's one lap, and then a 5K is about 12-ish laps on a track. So obviously that's a jump in terms of distance. So I just think you have to allow yourself the chance and the opportunity to break through those limitations and expand. Because if you just say, put yourself in a box like, oh, I just do this, or I just do that, or I'll never do this, you'll never really get there because you're not giving yourself even a chance. You're shooting yourself in the foot. So I just think once you put forth that courage and you just try and you fail and you win and all the whole nine, you really learn that anything is, it might sound corny, but it's true. Put courage and consistency together and belief. It's serious. It takes time, but over time you'll see all the progress and all the bricks you built over a period of time. But the mind is powerful. The mind, obviously, I'm not saying if you've never ran a 5K in your life, you just get up off the couch and run and you just like, because there was this thing, I'm going to reference Nick Bear again. It's this story that goes perfectly with this. He's saying that when he ran his first marathons, like he wouldn't fuel, because but fueling is very important for running. That's a whole nother episode. Anyway, so basically he was saying like how he was trying to get himself to think, oh, I don't have to fuel. I can just gut this out mentally. Mentally, you can do a lot of things and you should be able to do, like, over time, you should be able to bear certain things. But if you're not fueling, it doesn't matter how mentally strong you think you are. Physically, you're going to bonk. So that's what happened. He ran the marathon and he ran a time. The time doesn't matter. I'm just telling you the time because his current PR is like 2:48, I think. No, wait, it's 2:39. My fault. It's 2:39. And he ran like a 3:50 something. So obviously that wasn't his full potential because he was trying to say like, oh, physically, I don't need to be in the best shape. I don't need to fuel. Like I'm mentally, I'm just going to gut this out. And it doesn't really work like that. But anyway, the mind is powerful only if you allow it to be. You have to just take that first step and get out the door, as they say. So yeah, that's the second thing. But third thing, and this is a very opinion. Words are hard. Oh my gosh, opinionated opinion. Cross country is more difficult to track. Now, obviously, like I just said, this is very opinionated, but in my opinion, it's just the mental bandwidth and the compounding nature of the fatigue in a 5K is way more grand than a 400 or 800 based off of my experience. Now, 400, 800s, they are still difficult. I'm gonna say this: any event in track is difficult. It doesn't matter if you do the 100, the 200, the hurdles. They're all difficult in their own way because they all require a certain amount of intentionality and certain, like, cause the thing is, when you run 100, you have to be very strategic and very technical how you're running. Because literally any misstep in your form and stride, it could potentially mess up your whole race. So especially the whole drive out portion and blocks and all, that's a whole different thing. But just from my experience mentally and the workouts and just the intentionality and just the overall experience of cross country. Because the thing is, like I've said before, once you get to like a mile and a half, 2 miles, your legs are heavy. And the thing is about cross country, I wouldn't say the fatigue necessarily gets worse until like you start sprinting at the end, but it's just that fatigue and it just compounds. Like, actually, no, compound's not a good word. It just stays with you. It's just consistent fatigue. So once you get to a mile and a half, it's just staying with you and staying with you. It's not getting any worse, but the thing is, it's staying with you so long. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. So I don't know why I was stuttering for that long. It had me lost for words. But anyway, it's just uncomfortable. That's the point of a 5K. You're uncomfortable for an extended period of time. With a 400, you're probably uncomfortable for about, I'd say, the back half of the race to like the last like 200, because the first like 200 you're not in the lactic zone yet, so you're not really feeling any like overbearing fatigue yet. But I just feel like the thing with cross country is just the thing about it is the distance and the pace you're holding. Because the thing is, if you run like a faster 5K, this is subjective. Like you're probably running like, if you're running like a 15, maybe 16, you're probably running low 5 minute miles, like 5 minute mile pace. And if you're holding that pace for a long duration, that fatigue, it taxes you. It's very taxing. So once it hits you in a race, like I said, it just sits there. And other thing with cross country, it can be more technical in terms of track. Because the thing is with a track, it's a flat oval. Like obviously there's different surfaces from track to track depending on what school or what area you go to. But with cross country, the courses are so varied. Like it could be muddy one day, it could be more hills, it could be completely flat, it could be a flat course, it could be a fast course. I mean, it varies a lot, and that's the thing too. You have to take in consideration with the times. I guess so. I mean, I don't really take that consideration the most into times, even though maybe I should, but I don't. But that could make you run slower or faster depending if there was a hill at 2.6 of a mile in, or if there wasn't. I mean, obviously, because if you're going up an incline, it's gonna take you a little bit longer to go up there because it's an obstacle. So I just think it's definitely more technical because the terrain and the layout of the course varies so much in comparison to track. Because overall, like 99.99% of the time, the track is just a flat oval. That's pretty much it. So fourth thing I want to go over that I've learned is the result of a race is not the end all be all. Because whenever a time trial or a race doesn't go to plan, the first reaction for pretty much every runner, if you really take it serious, you're probably gonna feel like unworthy, frustrated, confused, and all the above. You'll be conflicted. Like you'll be very conflicted at the point in time. But the thing is, like I just mentioned with cross country, the courses and not all races are the same. Like it could be more elevation, more hills, more whatever, more tomfoolery going on, more loops and divots in the course. So the thing is with a track, you can keep it, the results are very consistent because like I said, it's flat. So I just think this is discouraging from race to race, but I think this kind of teaches you and humbles you. Like not every race and competition is indicative of who you are as an athlete, because just because you ran 25 on one course and you ran 25-40 on a course that's more hilly doesn't mean that you necessarily got slower or faster. It's just the course may have been different. I mean, obviously you don't, I think some people use that as an excuse, like, oh, that was a hill at the end, so now I'm cooked and blah blah blah. I mean, it's a consideration, but I mean, you just kind of keep that in mind and just kind of, that's kind of where you go off of effort in terms of a time, because the time, I don't think it's the end all be all, but however, times do tell you if you're progressing or not. So obviously you want to keep that in mind. But what I want to say here is I'm not saying that a poor performance, like in terms of your standards, it doesn't give you good information on knowledge, how you can expand and grow. Because obviously, let's say you didn't kick when you should have, or you didn't make a move when someone tried to cover you or whatever it may be. I'm not saying you should learn from that, but I'm saying the main thing I want to get at just from experience is don't let it destroy you and dwell on it. Because the thing is, if you dwell on a race outcome and just, oh, I didn't cover this move, and oh, I missed my split by 2 seconds. If you really just sit on that and you don't move on, it will destroy you, and it will eat you alive if you really care about it. So I think the thing is to just learn from it and then move on from there and just take what you can from it and just reflect from it. But after all, I told this to my coach one day, and I think it kind of sticks. There's always more miles to log, and I'm not saying this is an excuse to just start running extremely slow and poor for your standards, but at the same time, you use that as, I guess a driving force and something to look forward to and something to keep going towards whenever things may not go to plan, because sometimes it just doesn't go to plan. I mean, I don't really know the exact reason. I mean, obviously, you win some, you lose some. That's my whole gist of the last episode. But I just think the main reason I think things don't go to plan is just because you need to learn. And if things always went to plan, you wouldn't really learn and you wouldn't grow. So I think you should just take that as a time to reflect and just get back to logging more miles and building from there. But the last thing, I think this is really important for me and just people in general. Everyone can win, and I just realized during my cross country season that it's really easy to fall into competition with others. Now I'm not saying like you running with your bros and you ran 100 all out, like just harmless, like that's fine. But I just think it's when you start trying to be the biggest and you start trying to be like better than people and looking for holes in people and trying kind of look down on them and say, oh, I ran faster than you and blah blah blah, I'm the best and blah blah blah. I mean, obviously you should want to be the best for you, but when you're trying to look at whole, like, you're kind of making people your enemies, and you're just trying to be, I guess like, not envious, but it's just you're looking at them more as like a rival. Like, you're like, oh, I got, like, it all depends on if I beat this person or not. In reality, not really. I mean, obviously, when you get to state and regionals and crack, whoa, don't do crack, kids. When you get to state and regionals and cross country and track, obviously the goal is pacing and, you know, getting the medal or whatever for your team. That makes sense. But I'm just saying, for me personally, I think the first goal and the first gist of any type of race and any type of, like, physical activity or performance or event is to get better than what you were last time and progressively overload. I think that's the main thing. And then when you do that, placing and competing with others, you know, in terms of races, that will facilitate itself if you just worry about being better, being 1% better than what you were at the first time. So, I mean, if you're running a 6-minute mile freshman year and you ran a 4:55 last year, I think you as a person should be proud of that for you. You shouldn't have to rely on other people to tell you, oh, you did good, oh, you're so fast, blah blah blah. The thing is, when you get into that, you really feel unfulfilled and you really feel like you don't really know who you are as a person, even though there's all these people saying how good you are and how strong you are and how blah 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 you are and just commending you, and you can't even commend yourself. So you just feel like, dang, like, what am I really doing? So I just think, like, running a 7 flat minute per mile pace to catch up with someone, even though you run an 8:30 pace, that's not really the way to go, because you'll end up digging yourself in a hole just to be the fastest and the hero of the group instead of just slowly progressing. And you're right. And I'm gonna leave it here for this part. But I just think another Nick Bear thing is, I just think it goes perfectly with this. The goal of training and just activity and fitness in general should be to stimulate and not obliterate. Because if you're out there running 2:30, 800 meter repeats and you're really supposed to be running like a 3:15 for your right, you're obliterating yourself just to be in front. And to be honest, the thing is, you're probably gonna have to take a step back even more to recover, because you might get injured because you're just going balls to the wall when you really shouldn't. And it's going to take you even more time to come back. But in reality, if you would have stayed at a 3:15, you probably would have been 3:10, 3:05, 3 flat, 250. You know what I'm saying? And then you're not injured. You're just slowly getting better instead of just going out all out trying to be the hero and just trying to outdo everyone else. And you slowly get to where you are instead of getting injured and potentially getting burnt out and just destroying yourself for no reason, instead of just stimulating growth over a period of time. This applies to lifting too. I'm not going to go too much into lifting because this is about cross country, but just another example, like if you're just throwing up 100-pound dumbbells with bad form. But that's pretty much the episode. Just 5 things I learned from cross country. Hopefully y'all learned some things from that, because I obviously have, and I'm still learning from them, because there's a lot of things I still need to learn and, you know, help apply to myself as a human being. But that's episode 57, I believe, and we'll see y'all next time.